then I'm going to feel success and happiness. And once I achieve this, I'll feel success and happiness. And that's the furthest thing from the truth.
I feel successful, happy, and fulfilled right now, man.
You have to feel it right now with who you are as a person and where I am right now, not based off of once I accomplish this, or if this deal that I have today and we sell it for $6 million, if that goes through, then I'm going to feel happiness. I will feel happy now. And if the deal goes through, I'll still feel happy then, because my happiness.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host. And you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. As always, I have a very incredible and accomplished guest today. That before I introduce him to you, though, I want to give a big shout out to all of you who have been leaving comments, reviews, likes on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, and Spotify, and to those who have been watching on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. And I want to ask you for a small favor today. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value, some type of inspiration, or something that inspires you to go and take action, I want to ask you to share this interview with one friend, since this is how we grow, this is how we share our message, and this is how we're able to motivate, inspire, and bless other men to change their lives. And while you do that, subscribe, like this video, like this interview, so that you won't miss another amazing, life-changing episode in the future. And today I have Andrew Cordle. Yeah,
that's how you got it, boss. You got it.
Cool, Cordle. And he's an acclaimed author and international speaker with over $350 million in sales generated from speaking on stages alone. And he's now best known as the host of the I Am Me show, where he leads open and vulnerable conversations with who's who from the world of business leaders, influencers, and athletes such as Grant Cardone, Mike Tyson, Gary Vaynerchuk, Allen Iverson, Kevin O'Leary, and Ric Flair, and other amazing, very accomplished entrepreneurs as well. And he also has a show called Money is Blank, right? In which he's interviewed dozens and maybe hundreds of very successful entrepreneurs, which I'm very excited to talk about as well. And he has a bunch of other stuff that he's done. But Andrew, man, thank you very much for being here, man. I really appreciate your time, and you're welcome, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Happy to be here, and excited to talk about entrepreneurship and what's really important in life and significance and so forth. So happy to be here, man. Hope I can help out anywhere I can.
Awesome. So the first thing that I do with my guest, Andrew, is I tell them to walk us through their entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
That's a tough one, man. 75 seconds, but I'll try to give it to you. I probably just tell your listeners, I'm a serial entrepreneur and started entrepreneurship young, and I'm now 39 and have been in entrepreneurship every step along the way. Right now we have 5 different companies that we run and manage, and continue to grow and look for opportunities inside of it. We got some big moves we're making this year inside of just where the market's at and where different windows of opportunity are. But at the end of the day, man, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and some people create businesses and hold on to them for 20, 30 years. And for me, I see the opportunity, see the vision, create the business, kick it over to my team, and then I'm kind of off to the next one
Cool.
that we have, and then we'll sell that one, partner with it. We're closing a deal today where we're selling off about 30% of a company for $6 million today. And then I'm already down the road of building another one, though. I mean, I'm a serial entrepreneur, man. That's the best way to say it.
All right, serial entrepreneur. So you're 39. So when did your entrepreneurial career started?
Obviously, I could go back to when I was a kid, and in grade school and stuff. And I started stupid, silly football leagues that charged my other fourth grade classmates of money to get into. So, as far as that goes, I've always been an entrepreneur. If you go back and say, when was my first business? It was in college. I was a freshman in college and had my first real job in UPS shipping company and realized, my God, I hate this. And started a window cleaning company. And while I was in college, and started that because it was the only thing I could start, because it was like $20 to start one. And started a window cleaning company. And before I graduated, I had built it to a $1 million a year company, and split it 3 different ways, sold it when I graduated, and then went to real estate. And in real estate, I've done about 1,000 types of different real estate transactions, which then led me into training and became a public speaker, and went on the largest circuit in America of real estate speaking. And we became the #1 team in all of America. That $350 million on speaking on stages, I only did that. That's not my lifetime. That number is way bigger if I do my lifetime. That's actually only in about 4 years is how it took me to sell $350 million on stages. And then from there, I launched all the different shows that we have now. And then right now I have everything from a mastermind to a CEO mastermind. I have the IME show, the Money Is brand. We have Power Room, which is our mastermind. We have Card Champs, which is a software company. We own First Token, Collective Influence, just a handful of different companies that we own and manage.
That's very interesting, man. So what did you study in college? Like, you actually graduated from college. So like, what did you go and study?
I actually have a master's degree, crazy enough, in theology. That's my degree. It has nothing to do with the business at all, but my master's is I have a master's degree in theology. Yeah. What is
that? What is theology?
It's basically study of religions. And so I would study different types of religions and I wouldn't say good or bad, but just how the different ones work and what they do and how they operate and what they're based off of and so forth. And I grew up in a very religious home. And so it's kind of a natural process, I think, of just curiosity at a young age, trying to figure out, you mentioned earlier before the call about, I didn't believe in God, and all of a sudden all that stuff happened in your life, and it's like, wait a second, okay, maybe there is a God. And if there is a God, well, how does that work? And where do I fit into that puzzle? And okay, there's like 90 different religions coming at me right now as a quote unquote, let's call it a customer in business. And which one do I choose? And so out of curiosity, I went deep into studying how all that works and based my belief and opinion off of the data, I'll say.
That's amazing, man. So one of the things that I want to accomplish, that I want to focus, my attention on is mastering the unseen, mastering like the metaphysical, right? Like everyone is so focused on like the numbers, on the physical, on the what you can see. But I heard it, like, I don't know if it's a quote or I don't know where I heard it, but I heard that if you focus on understanding and really mastering the metaphysical, the unseen, what cannot be seen, you can literally make like 20 years of progress in just by doing that, right? I don't know if that's true. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you talk about life and talk about business. I'll talk about business for a second here. My whole, it took me a while to figure this out. And if you're listening right now and you're an entrepreneur and you're like, you're going through entrepreneurship and you're going through business, you're like, man, I got a new idea every 30 seconds. I got another idea for this. I got another idea for this. And I had this, I could go do this thing over here as well. That's how I was, man. And I still am to this day. It's how I'm wired. And inside of that, I talk about a lot of times you can be born an entrepreneur or you can be created into an entrepreneur, and neither one is right or wrong. But I would tell you that I was born an entrepreneur, meaning I don't know anything else except for this. And when I die, I will die doing business because it's how my brain and body works. Right. And so inside of that, when you're born an entrepreneur, one way to easily tell it is how many ideas do you have at a high rate of speed? And as you're growing, kind of coming up through business, people are like, oh, you have shiny object syndrome and you're chasing another squirrel and so forth. And it was always frustrating to me because I was almost like, even as I got out of school, which, again, you're kind of in a weird circle there because you're an entrepreneur and your brain thinks differently and wired differently than the other students there. And then when I got into entrepreneurship, even there, I was kind of like, even in my own circle, kind of, criticized and made fun of to a certain degree because I always had a new idea where other people are like, man, just do this business and grow this and stop chasing other things. And it was super frustrating to me because I just wanted to be me. I just wanted to do whatever my gift was, whatever gifts I had. I wanted to go maximize those gifts. And one of my gifts was being able to see things that other people can't. I don't mean like in a psychic way, but what I mean is inside of business, when you're born an entrepreneur, you can see the unseen. Going back to your question here, you can see things that other people can't yet. You can see windows of opportunity. You heard me talk about it earlier. You can see windows of opportunities where other people can't. And I've built my whole business and my whole career off of being able to see what other entrepreneurs can't see, because they're hyper focused on this one thing that they're doing. And so for me, I have built my business around always having my head up, if you will, and looking at where the market's at, where the culture's at right now, where the community's at right now, and then looking for different opportunities that lie within those different markets. And opportunities are like windows. They open and close. And if you're not through the window, by the time the opportunity is closed, you'll miss out on whatever that opportunity is. And so as an entrepreneur, you talk about seeing the unseen. To me, I think it's one of my greatest gifts that I have is it's not managing the company. I'm not great at managing the team, managing the company. What I am great at is seeing what other people can't see, and then not being afraid to make a move right there and take that shot when other people are afraid to take the shot. So yeah, for sure. You can expedite your 20 years into very quick progress if you're willing to go down that path right there.
Okay. All righty. All right. So you left me like cold, like with nothing to say. All right. So you studied this, right? You studied this. So what do you think was the most valuable thing that you got out of like studying different religions?
It's a good question. I'd probably tell you that, in my opinion, if you talk about what I got the most out of studying theology and religion, is that men, meaning humans, and mainly men, if you want to get really specific here, men normally ruin religion. That's a fact. And what, in my belief, there's a God and there's a Christ, Jesus. And what happens is if you study religion, what you'll find is a lot of religions start out the same. And then you'll see men start to get involved in them. And as men get involved in them, you'll see the religion start to take a stroll to the left or to the right, wherever it may be. And I struggled with this for a long time, man, because even the religion that I was kind of born and grew up in, it never really made sense to me because it was always very man driven. And this goes back, and I'm going to tie all this back in for you and the viewers right now. The brand that you're building right now, Alex, with Modern Gentleman, and understanding the thing of significance as an entrepreneur is probably the number one thing that I missed out on for probably, I don't know, maybe if I say I started entrepreneurship at 18, I'm 39 now, it's 21 years. I probably missed out on this for
2 decades.
16, 17 of those 21 years I missed out on understanding significance. And what happens as entrepreneurs is we begin to chase the dollar or chase success, or chase, if you want me to give you the word that I use, is achievements. We begin to chase achievements, and we feel like once I achieve blank, whatever blank is, once I achieve this, then I'm going to feel success and happiness. And once I achieve this, I'll feel success and happiness. And that's the furthest thing from the truth.
I feel successful, happy, and fulfilled right now, man.
You have to feel it right now with who you are as a person and where I am right now, not based off of once I accomplish this, or if this deal that I have today and we sell it for $6 million, if that goes through, then I'm going to feel happiness. I will feel happy now. And if the deal goes through, I'll still feel happy then, because my happiness, my feeling, my emotional fortitude of what makes me successful and what makes me happy as a man, as a partner, as a business partner is strictly based off of me, not off of achievements. And most people, but even to a further degree, most entrepreneurs are constantly chasing achievements instead of fulfillment. And when you turn your focus on fulfillment, meaning how do I, as a human, as a man, how do I feel? How am I supposed to be fulfilled? And it's not through achievements. However, I will tell you, when you find fulfillment, inner fulfillment, you will achieve all the things that you want in life. Those will always go with fulfillment. However, if you instead of chasing fulfillment, if you chase achievements, fulfillment will not go with achievements, but achievements will go with fulfillment. And so when you talk about modern gentlemen earlier, I would 100% agree with your concept and theory and philosophy and understanding what's really important in life. And what's really important in life is understanding who you are as a person. It's why I started the show. I am me. It's meaning I want to be the most real person that I can be. And that's the newest show that I started just recently. And I haven't even actually launched it yet. I have about maybe 30 shows in the hopper right now that we've already recorded that we're sitting on. We're getting ready to release them, but it's about having an authentic conversation of who you are as a person. And a lot of times, even as an entrepreneur, people, you read off at the beginning all the achievements and accolades that I have done, and they're all super cool, and that's great. But most people, that's what you're chasing, is those accolades and achievements. And instead of chasing what's the fulfillment side, which is understanding who you or me, who I really am as a person.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I think this is something extremely important, man, that most entrepreneurs don't understand. I actually have this big ass calendar by Jesse Isler, right? Yeah. Which in which you can see like the whole year in like just one glance. And I track my emotions there. Yeah. And last year, most of my months, like most of my 30-day months were full, like in a 30-day month, 25 to 28 of those days, I was full of doubt, fear, frustration, anxiety, and they were negative, man. Like they were purple, right? Like most of like 25 days out of a 30-day month was like that, right? And since I've invested, do you know who Peter Sage is? Peter Sage is like very deep into what you're talking about right now.
I don't know him.
No. Well, he teaches that. He teaches how like how to be like successful, happy, and fulfilled. He talks about like not feeling good enough, and fears that entrepreneurs have, and why they do what they do, right? And how they chase achievement because they think that when they achieve, they'll be happy. Right. So that's what he teaches. And since I've been able to understand what you're talking about right now, which is extremely important, and I hope, entrepreneurs like dive deep into that and really don't take it lightly. Like right now, man, like in January, I had like 17 days that were negative out of 30. And then this February, I had like 7 days. And then March, I had 2 days that had a snippet of negativity and out of like entire 30 days. So, and that's because I've been able to understand what you're talking about right now. And for the last 3 years, like financially, I'm not like this millionaire. I'm not like, like I haven't achieved that many great things financially, but I have it all, man. Yep. Like physically, emotionally, sentimentally, with my wife and with my kid. I'm successful, happy, and fulfilled. And I feel like I have it all right now. And it's because for the past 3 years, business hasn't been able to work, quote unquote. I'm doing like air quotes. Business hasn't been able to work, right, at a very high level. And that has led me to, and because I invested in things like Gary J. White's Body Being Balanced in Business and King's Council and other stuff like that, I was like almost forced to focus on the other areas of my life and in order to find success, happiness, and fulfillment. And now that like business has taken off, man, like fuck, like this, I feel really good. That's what I'm trying to say. And I got emotional. And yeah, man. And it's because of that, because I understood that. And it's like a perfect journey that I believe God like led me through, because I think that if I had made money 3 years ago when I started, significant amount of money 3 years ago when I started as an entrepreneur, I would have focused on that, and I would have neglected myself. I would have neglected myself emotionally. I would have neglected my kid and my wife because I was making money, and I would have gotten my sense of self-worth from making money, and I would have doubled that on that, neglecting everything else. But because it didn't happen that way, because I didn't make money at the beginning of my career, I had to focus on all of the other things that did matter: physical, emotional, and sentimental freedom. And now that I am making money, I'm complete.
I mean, most entrepreneurs, myself included, most entrepreneurs do the exact opposite. Most entrepreneurs think that as I achieve different things, I'm going to, when I make a certain amount of money, then I'll be able to take care of my family. When I make this deal, then I'll be able to buy this house that I want and go on this vacation that I want, and I'll be able to take care of this and my mom and dad and so forth. And it's totally 100% not true. That's not how money works. It's not how life works. If you want to go deeper into this journey and process, what I'll tell you is that, there's a side of it. There's like two sides to this coin, if you will. There's one side of it that is about understanding and going, choosing every day, like when you talk about your yearly calendar. I went a step further than that, and I probably have spent, I don't know, $50,000 on a custom journal that I have built from scratch. I don't sell it. It's just my own personal journal that has my day-to-day life inside of it. And part of what's in every single day of my life is my emotional intentions and how I want to feel. And kind of going with what you were saying, is just, I went to a hyper deep level of running my life based off of it. But there's that side of it. The other side of it that I think a lot of people miss that will keep people held back is understanding that the subconscious and conscious side of things. And the biggest thing that's ever helped me in life and in business was having a massive breakthrough of understanding subconscious versus conscious driven. And all of us are really every day subconsciously, we're actually driven. Subconscious is what's our subconscious is what making our decisions. And you were programmed through things that could have been good or things that could have been bad, and they programmed you a certain way. And not in a deep way, like, oh, I have to, I was taught this as a kid, therefore this is my belief. Those are easy to overcome when it's just a belief. But when you have something that's instilled upon your subconscious brain as to what you're going to do in life and what trauma that came from, and then what outcome and what was then instilled upon you, that's the hardest thing to overcome. And I went through a big process where I went with kind of I'll say my life coach, if you will. And he's a Navy SEAL leader, SEAL Team 3 leader. And he broke down one-on-one with me, and we spent several days up in the mountains in the cabin, and we broke down subconscious and conscious brain. And dude, it was the biggest breakthrough I've ever had in my life of understanding my subconscious brain was wired a certain way, and you cannot get rid of that, your subconscious, but you can rewire it. And once you can rewire your subconscious brain, it will allow you to have the exponential growth that you're looking for in life. What's holding you back right now as a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman it's really inside of you. Is because of how you're programmed right now subconsciously. And if I could have you do anything, it would be find a way to rewire your subconscious mind. It's the fastest shortcut, because again, when I say there's two sides of that coin, we can sit here and talk about choosing a life of fulfillment and choosing a life of fulfillment every day and trying to choose a life of fulfillment, which is you can. It's going to take you a very, very, very long time to really, because what you're really doing is rewiring your subconscious as you do that. However, you can shortcut that by actually going into like these deep intensives where you can literally rewire your subconscious brain. And when you rewire it, everything opens up to you. And then choosing a life of fulfillment is like so freaking easy. It's like, of course I will. Because your subconscious is no longer leading you. So if you're listening, you have no idea what I'm talking about, just go look it up. But it's your subconscious brain controls everything. And most of the time that happens when you're a kid. And again, doesn't mean it was bad. It doesn't mean like, I'm not saying, it's a therapy session where someone's like, well, where did they touch you? Or did you raped, or, were you, whatever it was. Like, I'm not like none of that. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about things that happen in your life that you didn't even know, but it triggered something in your brain. And it's kind of a gateway, if you will, that you kind of walk through. And there's certain gateways we walk through in life that happen periodically. And that's it, dude. Once you walk that gateway, you are wired, and it will control everything that you do in life. If you go back, Alex, to the story you told me about your dad, pre-phone call, and you talked about the 8 different kind of, I don't know how much you've ever shared with your crowd, so I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, I've shared everything, man.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk about the 8 different women there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what makes a man do that? It's simple.
The feeling of not being good enough.
It was something that was wired in his subconscious brain that had him going after the different cycles. Because you actually talked about him earlier. You talked about he was just like a different cycle. It was like he did it, and then he did it again, and then he did it again. And what's crazy was at the end of all this, when you talked to him, you said you were 14 years old, he told you the secret, sort of the secrets of life that he was missing. And so you think about it and say, well, wait a second. How could he know the secrets of life? Like he could tell me, hey, these are the things I got to focus on. But yet in the same hand, had 8 different women and 8 different, I think you said 9 different babies from different mamas and drugs and everything in it. But he actually knew the process of success. And it was because there's something in his brain that was wired that happened as a young man to him. It could have been a good or bad. I'm not saying that his dad, doesn't mean his dad was the same way or not. It just means something triggered him in the subconscious brain. And what it does is it keeps you inside of a bracket. I don't know how much you study in this, Alex, but when you have a subconscious brain, you have your conscious or your subconscious, and it's just like a bracket, like a parentheses, if you will. And it will keep you inside of those parentheses. One is kind of your superpower, and one is your kryptonite. And your kryptonite is what's keeping you inside of this bracket. It will never allow you to go to the next level and achieve fulfillment and feel successful through that process, because you're inside those brackets. And when you talk about that example of your dad, like you can literally see it. He was wired subconsciously at a young age and could not get out of that. It doesn't matter if he knows it or not, meaning he knows the answers. He's wired that way. You can sit here, Alex, and tell me the exact 5 steps that I have to do to create financial freedom. It's irrelevant, because if my brain is subconsciously wired a certain way right now, no matter if I hear what you say or not, it's going to go do what it's always done, because my subconsciousness is what controls everything about me. It's what controls you. It's what controls the listeners. It's the subconscious brain. So I can sit here and tell you, here in America, I know you live in Arizona. I can tell you some crazy strategies that would blow your mind on how the top 1% of the 1% create tax-free wealth in America. And I can tell you how to do it step by step, break it down for you. I've made literally hundreds of millions of dollars off of these strategies, because it's the top 1% of the 1% of how they structure their businesses and how they get out of taxes. It's irrelevant. I can share that with 100 people. It doesn't matter, because what's going to happen is their subconscious brain will take over financially for them, and they will ignore everything you just, except for they'll talk about it. They'll in 2 years from now, they'll still be talking about it, but they won't go anywhere with it. Why? Subconscious brain controls everything.
So how do we change that, man?
So again, doing the choosing of fulfillment is like the baby steps through that process. If you want to have like a massive breakthrough, what I would tell you is only I can tell you is what I've done, which was I went through a big, what's called an intensive, and it was 4 days up in a cabin with a guy who was a conscious, subconscious trainer. And it's the greatest, minus what I always tell people this, minus my salvation of understanding what salvation from God is. Minus salvation, nothing has affected my life more positively than rewiring my subconscious brain. And the only way I know how to do it is either A, slowly, you just keep choosing fulfillment, and you're slowly, day by day, in a fight with your brain. Every day is a struggle, because you're trying to like make sure that you live this certain way and you have these certain emotions, and that you choose the life of fulfillment. Versus when you rewire the subconscious brain, you will automatically want to every day choose those things. And what's crazy is the days that you have what you would call a bad day. The weird part of it, and it's hard to even explain this until you get around people that have been through a subconscious rewiring, is you can literally see yourself doing it. They call it going to your ship. And it just means that as humans, when we get in our subconscious brain and we hit the trauma cycle or the PTSD cycle, what happens is they call it going on your ship, which just means you'll get back on your ship and you will knowingly drive that ship all the way to sinking it to the bottom of the ocean. And you know that it's happening. Now, right now, you do it right now. But when you rewire your brain, you will freaking see yourself like doing this. You're like, oh crap, dude, I am literally allowing myself to drive this ship into the bottom of the ocean right now and do it. But rewiring it is by far the greatest thing that I've ever done, because it circumvents so much drip training and puts you all the way to the front of the line, if you will. And again, I have nothing to sell. Just make sure your audience knows this. Like, I'm not a trainer in any of this. I have no courses in any of this. I'm just telling you, as an entrepreneur, it's the number one thing that's ever helped me become successful in life. Was not money. It was not flipping 1,000 houses. It was not making a ton of money. It was rewiring my subconscious brain and allowing myself to choose every day, naturally choose fulfillment on a daily basis.
Yeah. That was very valuable.
Have you ever studied any of that, Alex?
Yeah, man. I'm into it right now. I'm actually about to attend a retreat, just like the one you talked about, in which they do a bunch of stuff and they rewire your subconscious mind. So I'm about to attend that. And I've been choosing fulfillment for the last 3 years. So I've been putting in the work and I feel pretty aligned. Like my thinking and feeling center feels pretty aligned. And I feel pretty aligned with who I believe myself to be. Right. And like the action that I'm taking and how I'm feeling.
Yeah, you'll probably have if it's a kind of a subconscious rewiring, you'll probably have an easier time because you're like you said, 3 years into aggressively breaking this down emotionally and internally with yourself. You'll probably have a much easier time. Dude, when I went to it, I
cried and stuff.
Oh, bro. I mean, I at one point I was in a cussing match with this Navy SEAL, which is not a great place to be in. Well, he wasn't, I was. He was totally calm, but I was like screaming and yelling at him. And I ran out of the house in the cabin that we were in. Like, dude, there were some big breakthroughs I had to go through that I did not see coming through it. So yeah, dude, rewiring the subconscious brain is incredible. If you guys have never experienced it, I would tell you, don't go hire another sales trainer, coach, mentor. Go find someone who can help you rewire your subconscious mind, and you'll be blown away by the amount of success that you will have.
100%, man. I totally agree. Most people in the entrepreneurial world, are focused on knowledge mastery, on learning more and more skills and stuff like that. But what you should be focused on is not subconscious, but like self-mastery, right? Because like right now, no matter if you give us right now the strategy of how to make millions of dollars with like tax strategies and stuff, like no matter if you give it to us right now and you like step by step and you draw it and stuff, most people won't go ahead and do it, because even if they know what to do, they won't do it because it's just not part, like they don't have self-mastery. Like deep inside, they don't believe that they can do it and they'll fuck themselves over.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I'm saying. Like I've taught it to thousands of people, but I bet you less than 2 people have ever actually done the stuff that I have actually shown people. And people have paid me a lot of money to show them how to go do it, and I did it, and they still don't do it. And it's just because of how they're. Again, make sure if you're listening right now, I'm not talking about you heard something said and your parents taught a certain philosophy and that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. That's easier to overcome. I'm talking about a trauma that happened in your life, and you may not even recognize it as a trauma. A trauma is just simply, if you define it, a trauma just means is a time in your life that you are no longer in control. So yes, of course, if you were molested or you were in a car accident or something like that happened, yes, that's trauma because you are no longer in control. But also trauma is also in easy things that happen in your life as a kid where you were no longer in control. And when you lost that feeling of being in control, a trauma took place in your life, a gateway could have happened that then wired your brain a certain way. And dude, mine was easy. Look, I'll tell you mine just so your audience can understand it. I grew up in a fairly poor family, and my mom and dad were in college. I had 2. It was me and my sister. I'm the oldest of 4, but there's only 2 of us at the time. And I was saving up to buy a motorcycle, had a paper out. I was in maybe second grade, second or third grade max. And my family was very poor. And my dad, I have a great family, but just at that time, especially because they were going through college and they were putting themselves through college and those student loans and putting us through school. And so I had maybe like, I don't know, $400 or $500 in my savings account. Then my dad opened for me, you know what I mean? Like he had to go to the bank and he was teaching me about money at the time. And he, right before he left for school one day, me and my mom and my sister and him were right before he left. We were staying at the front door and inside, and he stopped and said, "Hey, Andrew," in front of everybody, he's like, "Hey, work's been really tight lately. And I need to, if it's okay with you, I need to borrow, it was like $150 from you. And I need to pay these certain bills. And I won't get another paycheck until X time. And as I get this money in, I'm going to pay you back." And he asked me, could I let him borrow this $150 to pay these like electrical power bills and food, for the family. And again, at 3rd grade, I was like, yeah, of course. Like, think about it. He never had to ask. He didn't have to ask me that. His name was on the account. He could have took the $150, used it and put the $150 back and never asked me. And I would have never known the difference. But he was just trying to be very respectful and teach me a lesson about money. And so he asked me about it. And I said, yes. And he had written a 1-page contract that said, my dad's name, agree to borrow $150 from my name, Andrew, on this date. And I agreed to pay it back. And he had written out this like simple 1-page little contract, and he was going to pay me interest back.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to tell you that this podcast has completely changed my life in ways that you could never imagine, and I would like the same for you. Look, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and the fastest way for you to level yourself up in every area of your life is for you to connect with people who are where you want to be, build relationships with them, and connect with them. The best way for you to do that right now in the digital age is for you to start your own podcast. And I just wanted to let you know that I have a free training that you can get free access to. It's called the 30-day Net Worth Skyrocketing 3-step podcast cloak track framework. And it's going to show you how you can start and automate everything in your podcast, from finding your ideal guest, getting them on an interview with you, and creating an automated content machine in just 30 days. By executing on this free training, you're going to be able to connect with high-level people, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem, in just 30 days with less than 1 to 2 hours per week, so that you can increase your net worth, your authority, your trust, your client acquisition ability, and your opportunity. So there's a special link for this free training in the description of this video. Thank you for watching and tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
10%. And he taught me about interest at that moment in time in my life. What happened though, again, trauma could be it could have been a good experience, but it wired your brain a certain way. And what happened was, that I went to school at 3rd grade, I had all these like endorphins released in that, oh my God, my money saved my family. Like I had money, and because I was able to give it to my family, I saved my family a power bill. And I'm in like 3rd grade, but I remember having these like thoughts, like all these other kids are like worrying about vocabulary. And I'm like, bro, I just saved my whole family from, eating in 3rd grade. What happened was it wired me a certain way. And so for my whole freaking life, dude, it put a bracket inside of me that said, I can make money. Okay. I can always make money, but I could only make so much money because I only needed enough money to take care of my family. And once my family's taken care of, that's all I needed. And so what happened was, for 15 years of entrepreneurship, I could always make, millions of dollars, which most people look at and think, oh my God, that's great. But when you start talking about millions of dollars that then you're paying for your lifestyle, and then you're paying for your family's lifestyle, because that's what I knew about money was I felt successful when I made enough money to take care of my family. It would feed my inner being of saying I'm self-worthy. I have self-worth because I've taken care of my family. Look at me. So again, go back to the bracket. I could always make money because that was my superpower. My kryptonite was I can only make so much money because all I need to do is take care of my family. Well, internally as an entrepreneur, I wanted a lot more than just a couple $1 million to take care of all my family. I wanted to achieve massive things. But for years, I was always stuck in this bracket of always being able to make money, but never being able to have enough money to really go do the things that I wanted to. However, everybody around me was taken care of. And it wasn't until, I had this massive breakthrough. I mean, look, to this day, give you an idea, that was when I was in 3rd grade. My parents are both school teachers, and even as they got out of college, still didn't have a lot of money. But as I made money, when my parents were 55 years old, I retired my mom and my dad completely. I paid off their house for them. I bought my mom and dad their dream cars, paid for those in cash. I gave them a money every single month in their account. I surprised them with a a retirement party they didn't even know was coming. I literally take care of everything for them, even to this day. I still do. And retired my mom and dad at 55 years when they were 55 years old, and they're now 60. My dad is 61, 62 this year. And so again, even from when I was a kid, even 6 years ago, when I retired my mom and dad, I was still trying to get that sense of accomplishment and feeling that once I retire my mom and dad, I'll be good. And did I feel self-worth? Sure. But I was stuck in my bracket of never being able to go to the next level of business. Once I rewired my brain and realized that my success is not depending upon me being able to take care of my family, it opened up the floodgates of how money works now and how much money I can have right now. Again, my point to you was a trauma is not always a bad thing that took place. Mm-hmm. Mine was a positive experience, but it wired my brain a certain way.
Yeah, that was very interesting, man. And I
And
can
you never
see.
thought that when you're 7 years old, like you never know that that's what's taking place in your life. I never know for the last 16 years, I was chasing this subconscious driving force in my brain. I didn't know that. But once I rewired it, it's like, oh yeah, of course that's what I was doing. That's how my subconscious was wired. Now it's totally different, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, man. I'm excited for this retreat. I'm excited to go and see what's taking place. Because I got on a call with the guy, right? And I'm pretty like emotionally like stable and emotionally mature. I like to think. And I got on a call with him. I told him about my goals. I have like extreme clarity of what I want to do, of what I want, and like my purpose and stuff. And I was telling him, and he made me cry, man, in a call, in like a 15-minute call. And
so here's unique. Go back to this. When me and you were talking pre-podcast, we were talking, and I always listen to it now because I'm so wrapped up into the subconscious brain. Your story is very unique, right?
Yeah.
But do you know where your story started off at when you started telling me the story?
When my mom started telling me a story of if you have a kid at a young age, you're going to be a fuck up and all that.
No, that came a little bit later. But your story was starting off of the whole story was starting off. Now that you were saying this, but if you just now take a step back, it was a little bit based off of that you were screwed and that you were the victim of a really bad scenario. And your dad had 8 different kids with 8 different women, and he left you when you were 1 year old, and the whole beginning of your entire who I am was based off of the bad and the negative inside of your life. And so again, I understand storytelling. I mean, as a public speaker, there's a part you have to use storytelling to get a story across. I think my only question to you is, why would you start the story of finding true self-worth and self-happiness? Why would you start the story of the victim? Does that make sense? And I'm not saying anything's wrong with this. I mean, dude, like, I'm not telling you you're doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to get you to think right now.
Yeah.
Because I do believe everything that you're saying. I do believe. You can kind of sense it when you get around people that are really choosing fulfillment over achievement. And I truly believe you are someone who is choosing a life of fulfillment. I don't think this is stuff that you're saying. All I'm asking you now is like, hey, let's look at your story for a second. Why don't we talk about like for example, dude, I lost everything when I was in 2008 during the crash. I was a multi-millionaire, had hundreds of houses, lost everything, crashed, moved back to my mom and dad's basement, had no car. My wife left me, it cleared out the bank account. Dude, I lost everything. Went through 5 different cars being repoed, 14 different foreclosures on houses and so forth. But I may use that story somewhere along as an educational teaching point, but I never start with that story. Like I wouldn't tell this story right here, minus I'm giving you an example of anybody can start a story with the negative. But if I want to help, I want to start with the positive of what's going on in life. And if I can use a negative situation that occurred in my life as a example story teaching moment, okay, I can do that. But I want to start off every conversation in the positive, in the gratitude, in the basis of what's happening, not what occurred to me back in the day and what I've overcame or achieved. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's like setting yourself up to say, look, I started at this very low point in life, and look what I've achieved so far. And we're, as humans, we kind of create this gap here as the underdog story of, I started this low, I started way down here, I had this happen to me, and now I'm here. And we try to create that massive gap so that it kind of makes us feel better, look stronger, et cetera. And again, let me back up, make sure you understand this. I am not saying that's what you did. I'm just having an open conversation.
No, I like it, man. Yeah. And
for many, many years, I started my story off by saying, oh man, I lost everything. I grew up with a poor family. I had no money. In 2008, I lost everything, crashed, lived in my mom and dad's basement. And then I'm the hero now. And now it's like, okay, but I'm trying, when you do that, it's like, you're just trying to show the people of what you've accomplished or have achieved by being so far low and where you're at now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. 100%. And I've dove deep into like
Yeah.
and into like this trauma. And
Yes.
yeah, I did identify myself as the victim, right?
Sure.
Because like it was my fault that my mom didn't amount to anything, didn't achieve anything, and was very like unhappy. It was my fault, and I was the victim, right?
Sure.
And because it was my fault, like, and she treated me bad. Like she you know, like she did all this stuff to me, but I deserved it, right? Because it was my fault. So I do have that like point in my story that I've consciously dove deep into and forgive myself and forgiving my mom and all that. And then another thing, not feeling good enough, right? Like I've been counting my calories since I was like 11 years of age, right?
Mhm.
Because I didn't feel good enough for some reason. I didn't feel adequate. I felt fundamentally flawed. So I counted my calories. I exercised. I wanted to take like dick pills and shit like that because I didn't feel good enough. There was a bunch of stuff, right, that came out of being a victim and not feeling good enough. So I get what you're saying, but no, I designed my story to articulate like my purpose, like what I believe my purpose is now. And I just like think that that is the perfect way to say that, right? To like, starting off from like my dad's story and all of that.
And I think it is. And again, I'm not telling you what to do. What I'm saying is maybe think about starting it on a positive and where you're at versus where you started from when you tell the story, right? Like if you started from a positive moment of, you know, hey, as an entrepreneur, would you like to live a life that is completely based off of fulfillment and being able to wake up every day and at the end of the day feeling completely satisfied with who you are, with self-worth, with self-value, and being able to go to sleep at night knowing you live the best life that you could today? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today on this podcast. And I didn't start there. You know, where I started at was boom. Now go back to the beginning of the story. But if you start on the gratitude and the positive of life, not the negative, it had changed the viewpoint of all your customers that are or listeners, viewers, customers, what do you want to call them? It had changed their viewpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, 100%. Thanks for that.
And again,
I'm not advice.
Please understand, I'm not telling you to go do that. I'm just talking to you about the subconscious. And I know how I fully believe what you're saying is very true. That's why I can have an open dialogue conversation with you, because I know you understand truly what it means to choose fulfillment, not achievements. And I can sense that from you. And I know that's who you are. So you're allowing me to, you know, share stuff with you that I probably wouldn't share with other people sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, man. So, man, do you have a hard stop right now in 1 minute?
Go shoot away, man. I got meetings coming up, but I'll see when they hit me up. My assistant will come in here in a little bit and tell me to move my next appointment, and then I'll move to my next appointment.
All right, man. Awesome. So look, so you say here on your bio that you're a partner in $1 billion plus business enterprise with 23 other companies.
Yep.
So I think that has to do with like the power room and all of that. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
About the conglomerate or about Power Room?
Power Room, yeah.
Yeah. So Power Room is Power Room is a CEO, high net worth, high network mastermind. And so, you know, there's all kinds of different masterminds out there that are super good, and they have different things, whether it's a business mastermind or a marketing mastermind or a self subconscious conscious mindset mastermind. And for me, I realized what I struggled with the most was being an entrepreneur. A lot of times, especially when you get started, it's kind of lonely and you're kind of by yourself and you're building this thing. You have this big dream, this big vision. And a lot of times, even when you achieve a multi-million-dollar business, you only have 1 or 2 employees that are working for you at that time because of how internet works so far right now. And so we created this mastermind strictly for entrepreneurial CEOs. And so if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a CEO of that business, and if you're a multi-million-dollar producing business, then this is a mastermind that's built for you. And everyone in the room has to be a CEO. They have to be an entrepreneur, and they have to be a multi-million-dollar producing business. And then we just create our mastermind around helping that CEO with literally some of the stuff I'm telling you right now. We'll bring in different speakers that educate the CEO on those decisions that they're making, right? And then all kinds of other things. Our next event is in like a week from now, and that one's in Florida. and we'll bring in celebrity speakers. So that's where we brought in Mike Tyson. This one we're bringing in Tim Tebow from the football, and I believe we'll know by the time this podcast has been released. But I just got a verbal commitment from Donald Trump Jr. Coming to it as well. And so we'll bring in some celebrity speakers to come to it, and then we'll bring in educators to it as well, specifically for CEO entrepreneurs.
Nice. So, man, my podcast has changed my life, right? Like
Sure.
I'm on like 80 interviews. So I thought I was going to be speaking. So one of my goals was to speak on stage in front of hundreds of people, at events and stuff. And 10 years from now, that's when I thought I was going to achieve that. But I'm going to be doing that this year. So I've been getting invited to like speak at multiple events, and then I'm going to be throwing my own events next year. And like I'm getting speakers through like my podcast and through the relationships that I'm building. So like it's been life changing. And like the 4 currencies of the world: money, knowledge, time, and network, right? I'm getting those 4 through my podcast, man. It's like the best thing ever. So what has been your experience with like your podcast and like all the people that you've interviewed and the relationships that you've created?
Yeah, great question, man. When I started my original podcast called Money Is Blank, just meaning what does money mean to you? And I did it because part of this like self-worth, self-value, understanding the true meaning of money. And I interviewed a bunch of podcast guys like yourself before I started it. And at that time I had a good amount of financial money already. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't trying to monetize my podcast. I just said, dude, I just want to go shoot a show and I want to interview and try to help other entrepreneurs. And so I'm going to go interview different entrepreneurs and try to help people. And I interviewed a bunch of podcasts and said, hey, tell me about your podcast. What do you like? What do you don't like? Why are you doing it? And one of the things I always asked them, I probably interviewed about 15 different podcast people. And I said, what do you want to like? What would be one of your dreams come true in your podcast? And they would always say, man, I would love to interview so-and-so. Oh man, I would love to be able to interview this person or this person, whoever it is. And every one of them basically said the same thing, is like, oh man, I'd love to be able to interview this person. And I went back to my team and just thought, guys, listen, if all these guys are trying to interview, they work their circle of influence, et cetera. And eventually they get to the point where they can interview after several years, maybe a certain person. And I would ask these guys, I'm like, how long have you been doing it? And they're like, oh, 3 years, 4 years, 2 years. I'm like, oh, have you interviewed that person yet? No, not yet, but I'm still hoping I can get connected. And so for me, I just said, okay, what would happen if we flipped the script? What would happen if we said, who would we love to interview in our circle, in our kind of bubble of our demographic? Who would be the top 3 people that we'd want to interview? And we came with a list, and it was Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, and Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. And we said, for my bubble where I was and who I wanted to speak to, as far as my demographic, that was my top 3. And I went to my team and said, okay, let's start with those 3. I want Gary V to be the first interview that we ever do on the show. I want Grant Cardone to be number 2 and Kevin O'Leary to be number 3. And we'll do them in that order, and we'll go figure out how to go do it. So what would happen if we started at the end, not the beginning? Start to take the end goal and put it at the beginning versus do a podcast for 3 or 4 years and try to get to the point where Gary V will finally say, yes, I'll be on your podcast. And so that's what I did. And long story short, my first 3 interviews were with Gary V, Grant Cardone, and Kevin O'Leary. And from that time forward, I did not know what was going to happen. I had no clue. But from that time forward, I've had no shortage of people, high level, high net worth CEOs to interview. But to be clear, the Money Is show, we have a massive studio, and on the Money Is show, there's no Zoom interviews. There's no over the phone interviews. Every CEO has to fly to my office, rent a car, rent a hotel, pay for their food. I don't pay for anything. They fly out on their own dime to be on my show. And you're doing a show, you know how hard it is to book high level guests. But if you can think about trying to get them to say, okay, fly to Arizona and spend a day, 2 days out of your life to come on my show, and I want you to pay for everything. That's super freaking hard to go do. But that's how I did this show. And I've interviewed over 250 multi-million-dollar CEOs. I have a waiting list of probably 150 right now trying to get on the show, all in-person interviews. From that, like you said, what happened was because I launched the show, it has opened up door after door after door after door after door into my life and my business. So I would tell anybody you should go start a podcast and start trying to interview different people that have a specific goal in mind of what you're looking for, and go find them. Now, if you have money, like I did when I started, I was able to get to the very, very top out of the gate. If you can't, okay, start where you can. And as you just said, dude, like as you build your podcast, your influence opens up, right? You meet this person, this person, this person, this person. Me and you talked on the phone or on this for 15 minutes beforehand, before the call started, to get to know each other. Well, just imagine if they flew to your office and spent a whole day with you, and they were a multi-million-dollar level CEO producer. Imagine the connection and the interaction that you guys could have together, and then what relationships are born from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, 100%. What does TBA mean?
Say it again.
TBA.
Where is it
TBA,
at?
On the questionnaire that I ask when I book someone on my podcast, you put, well, I don't know if you or your assistant put TBA.
TBA.
So do you have a podcast? And then the answer was TBA.
I don't know. I didn't answer those. The team answers those.
Yeah. All right. No worries. But yeah, man.
I don't know TBA. I don't know. To be asked. I don't know.
Okay.
To be announced. Cool. I don't know.
So man, I started my podcast out of passion and purpose, and it turned out to be something much more greater, right? I started interviewing the type of people that I wanted to become like, the type of people that were already doing what I wanted to do, and who already have everything that I wanted to have. And because of that, I'm seeing time collapse, right? I'm getting a lot of opportunities. Doors are opening for me to make money. I'm getting a lot of knowledge from those people of what to do and what to do and what not to do. And then time, right? I'm noticing time collapse. Achievement becomes easier because I did it out of fulfillment. I did it out of passion and purpose. So achievement is like simple, and
it's all bonus from there.
Yeah. And I'm having fun, man, and I'm enjoying it. And so that's what's happening. So yeah, man. I feel five really quick questions.
Sure.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self if you could?
If I give my 20-year-old self anything, it'd be what we talked about, is you have to deep dive first in yourself. And when I was young and people would tell me that, I'd be like, that's such bullshit. Like, because I'm a producer, and it was always like, I'm going to go produce first. And if I get on my way, I'll just go make something happen. I'm going to go produce this and build this thing, and it'll take care of itself. It's all a pile of crap. Now I do believe there is some self-motivation that is a pile of crap, that are just stupid courses that people are selling. I do believe that as well. But when I'm talking about the stuff that you're talking about, the stuff that you're trying to build at Modern Gentleman, that type of true self-discovery would be the number one thing I would tell my 20-year-old self, is spend the time in self-discovery, self-reflection, and on purposely choosing a life of fulfillment and not achievement. And you will be happy for the 20 years I've been an entrepreneur. I would have been happy through all those. When you choose a life of achievement, it's always like down the road versus, nah, dude, be happy today, be fulfilled today, and where you are right now, be happy where you're at right now.
Powerful, man. What is one mindset shift that you've had that you think has contributed to your success? A mindset shift.
A mindset shift. Don't go down the road I just went down. I'll try to give you a little bit different answer. Obviously, that's all a mindset shift, but I would say probably a big mindset shift is running my calendar based off of me, not others. And that's a tough thing as you get more and more into business and your time is pulled more and more different directions. Is when you can be the full, you shift your mindset to understand that what you're working on right now is the most important thing. And that's all that matters right now. And in business, especially as you're starting off as an entrepreneur, especially when you're choosing a life of achievement, you're always somewhere else. You're never present. You're never wherever the action is. You're never here because you're always thinking about, I got to go do this thing, achieve this thing, build this thing, versus just being completely absorbed into where you are right now. And so when you can understand that, and then you have a mind shift into controlling your own schedule, and being the commander in chief of your own time, is probably the biggest mindset shift that I've ever had, is understanding that I don't I don't have to work for other people, meaning I don't have to respond to other people when they want me to, how they want me to respond to their emails and text messages. And I have to run my life based off of their freaking schedule. I run my life based off of my schedule and what I'm trying to accomplish today, not what someone else is trying to accomplish, because all it was basically freaking working for other people while owning the company. I was always having to work for other people, though, if you will.
Yeah. And then the only reason why you wouldn't do that is because of scarcity, right? Because you think you're going to lose all those opportunities that you need to get whatever it is that you want to get.
If I have this phone call, if I do this, it's going to help me get to the next level. And when you, again, have the bigger shift, which was the first question you asked me, which is understanding achievement versus fulfillment. When you have that first, and then you realize that I don't have to be a slave to other people and their schedule and their time and what they need and how they need it. I'm my own person, and I can be in control of my life. And because at the end of the day, it is up to me to be happy. It's not up to someone else to make me happy. It's not up to my partner, my wife, to make me happy today. When I woke up today, it was up to me to be happy today, not what she does not do, helps me with something, whether she maybe cooks today a meal or doesn't cook today or whatever it is. That's irrelevant to my happiness. My happiness is self-centered into, I have to be in control of that, not someone else.
Powerful. Mindset map. So do you have any advice so that people can gain more clarity for their life?
I'd probably say that, when it comes to life, we especially as entrepreneurs, we think really big. We have massive visions. And we probably underestimate what we can accomplish in a year and overestimate what we can accomplish in 10 years. And, if you talk about a map and where to go, we talk about vision boards, which you kind of mentioned a little bit about that with that year calendar with Jesse. But I would just probably tell entrepreneurs that, we talk about your map. You can have all these different ideas and different dreams that you want to go accomplish. But don't look too far down the road, because dude, if I had to look too far down the road, I would have totally missed metaverse. This is what keeps me mobile and the ability to shift quick into windows of opportunities, which you heard me talk about earlier. My goal is to look for the opportunities in the market and strike immediately. And if I have too big of a long vision of I'm going to do all these things and my vision is down the road, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you'll miss the life that you're in right now, the time frame that you're in. You'll miss that because you won't shift into what's happening in life right now. So I would say keep your vision. Honestly, God, all my vision is under the longest vision. When I say vision, like goal-minded vision that I have is 3 years, but most of them are under a year long. And then broken down from there. So I would probably tell, as far as a map, don't go out so far in life, man. Be limber and ability to move, agility to move quick in the marketplace.
Nice. I like that. Mindset map. Motion. What is a habit that you have that has contributed to your success?
Again, unfortunately, it goes a lot to what we talked about, but a little bit different. What I would say is, the 2 words I would tell you is emotional intention. And when you talk about, the question you asked there, think habits or things that I do, and is emotional intentions, meaning I try to all throughout the day take time to set my emotional intentions. Meaning, again, this is how I don't allow someone else to dictate if I'm having a good day or bad day. I'm the one who sets my emotional intentions. Before I do a podcast, I try to set my emotional intention. Before I go, I got a big meeting coming up after this. And before I go in that meeting, I will try to take just a few seconds and kind of set my emotional intention. What I mean by that is I choose how I want to feel at the end of that meeting. Therefore, if I choose how I want to feel, not what I want to give, this is the big difference. This is where people struggle at, because most of the time when I went to meetings, it was always about what I want the outcome of the meeting to be, what I want to give in this meeting. And when you do that, it's all about, you're creating this false sense of, let me give, let me create value. I'm going to teach these 3 points on this podcast today. Bro, when I had gotten this podcast, I had no idea what I was going to go talk about. All I knew was I wanted to be authentic and real from whatever questions you asked. to me. I have no plan on this podcast to pitch some product or something. It's only to sincerely help. And so if I could give you advice on that, it would be all throughout the day, not throughout the year, not one time in the morning, as many times as you can. Set your emotional attention. When you get off this, Alex, when you get done today from work and you go home to your wife and beautiful daughter, before you get back home, if you work, let's say, away, just take a second as you're driving home and think about, how do I want to feel when I get home and see my daughter today? And if that emotional feeling is, I want to feel loved, or I want to feel joy, I want to feel sweet, I want to feel open, whatever that feeling is, set that for that moment, and you'll be blown away. Because when you go home, you just wired your subconscious brain. And so now what happens is, without even thinking about it, your brain is trying to figure out, without you even thinking, when I see my daughter for the first time today, when I get home from work, how do I feel loved? And that's the difference, right? I didn't say, how do I love her? And that's where most people go to, is because what most people want, because they're chasing achievement, is they want to give love because they'll feel like they've achieved something. But it's the reverse. When I set the tone and say, I want to feel love today for my daughter, when I get home with my daughter, all my brain does is figure out, how do I feel love? Well, do you know how I feel love?
By giving love to her.
By giving love to her only. And so naturally what happens is, without a secret agenda, or this secret way of me feeling self-worth because I'm like, oh, I was a good dad today because I loved my daughter. It's not that. There is no agenda in my life. It's just strictly for me to be happy. And it all, this is so cliche, but it's so true. It's like, it all starts from me, from within. Yeah. Like, it starts from within. And so if I can feel love today when I go home with my daughter, guess what my daughter will feel? She'll feel loved as well, which is what I want. Right. And so that's what I would tell people as their habits is, constantly, all throughout the day, set your emotional attention before a meeting, before a phone call. Just take a second and be like, how do I want to feel at the end of this phone call? How do I want to feel at the end of this podcast? And then choose that and go do that with your life. And you will feel so successful at the end of the day, because every emotional feeling that you wanted to feel loved, you wanted to feel connection, you wanted to feel worthy, you wanted to feel helpful, all these things that we want to feel as humans, you can't choose to go do that. I couldn't get in this podcast today and say, I want to help the people on this podcast. Think about this, Alex. I don't even know the people in this podcast. Yeah. I don't know one person listening right now. So how could I sit here and say, I am going to help that person? I can't. It's bullshit. That's not true. What I had to do is choose how I wanted to feel and let that come out.
Makes sense, man. I love you, man. And makes sense because I started this podcast because of how I wanted to feel, which is this, right? And it's working. And I bet that it's going to help others do the same as well. So last question is measure. What do you think about measuring and tracking, man?
Well, I think you have to. I think there's a fake sense of like, I don't ever measure this or measure that, or I don't keep stats or data. I think there's good and bad there. So I don't buy into either side of it. Like, some sides say, oh, I'm only competing with myself. That's all that really ever matters in life. And most of that I would actually tell you is true. That is the truth. However, to think to yourself that in my business, there's not stats. For example, you have a podcast right now. For you to ignore that there are podcasts that are in the same genre that you have, that have X amount of downloads or X amount of viewers and so forth, for you to ignore that like that doesn't exist is not smart, because it's telling you that you're not hitting a certain demographic, or your message is not reaching a certain person, because it's not creating the outcome that's there, right? So to ignore it is stupid, but to have it control you is even more stupid, right? So there's a great business principle in life that says 80-20. And I'd probably say it applies here too. 80% of your measurement should just be strictly within you, which what we've talked about all day. But the other 20%, you do have to understand where the industry is, where your competitors are, where the market is, so that you can make wise decisions in your business. And it's not just like, oh, I'm I'm just measuring against myself today. And did my business do good? I don't know. How did I do good today? Like, that's bullshit, dude. Like, businesses have to have cash flow. They have to have income. They have to have revenue. You have to know what your competitors are doing so that you can be wise and make good decisions. So I would say, and as far as measuring, use the 80-20 principle. 80% of the time, just focus on yourself. 20% of the time, focus on what your competitors and the industry is doing so that you know where you stand, and then go focus back on yourself again. And don't let that measurement on that side control you, but don't ignore it either.
Great insight, man. A lot of wisdom. So man, I've loved everything that you've talked about, all the, value that you provided to me and to the audience. So like, if I want to learn more about Andrew Cordle, where should I go?
The best place right now is just probably go to my Instagram. Like, that's how you found me, dude. You went to my Instagram and you DM'd me and I responded back to you. So I'd say if you want to know more about me and follow me and get to know more about my businesses and what all we have going on and all the live events and speaking that we do, go to my Instagram for all my social media is just my first last name, Andrew Cordle, Cordle. And my website's my same is andrewcordle.com. But out of all those, if you go to my Instagram and DM me, hit me up, follow me. That's where I communicate. That's literally how Alex booked me on this show, was hit me on Instagram and DM me, and I message him back. So I say hit me on Instagram, dude.
Sounds good, man. And like, a podcast has changed my life. This podcast changed my life. Podcast has changed your life and has allowed you to do amazing things. And, under all of the things that we're going to link for you, I'm going to put a special link. It's going to be link/Andrew Cordle, which is going to take people on an A to Z training, free training on how to start, grow, launch, monetize, and automate $1 million network building podcast. So free training for anyone who wants to start a podcast, just like me, just like you. I'm going to throw that in there as well, man. And I really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate your time, man. We went over a lot of time, and thank you very much, man.
Yeah, no problem. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if I can help you out with anything else.
See you later, man. Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms